now available in paperback. From the author of the critically acclaimed book The Man Crisis comes The Woman Crisis. Learn why so many women have become lost in their quest to have it all in The Woman Crisis. Get your copy of The Woman Crisis in paperback at Amazon.com and online booksellers today.
Hollywood Historical Women in Crisis. One of my viewers wanted me to do another installment in the Hollywood Historical Women in Crisis series. And for this installment, I'm going to be talking about Paula Yates, who was the mother of Michael Hutchence's daughter, Tiger Lily. All images used in this video are under fair use of United States copyright law and are used in conjunction with my commentary. Now, Paula Yates was a UK television presenter and writer, and she was known for her work on two television programs, The Tube and Big Breakfast. Unfortunately, Paula Yates, as she was in the entertainment industry, wound up becoming on the road to becoming a woman in crisis because her mother, a feminist indoctrinated woman, was already a woman in crisis. And with Paula Yates' first teacher being a feminist indoctrinated woman who was working in the entertainment industry, the only culture that Paula Yates knew was the culture of being a feminist indoctrinated woman, and learned the predatory culture of being a part of the entertainment industry. Now, Paula Yates was born to her mother, Elaine Smith, and she really didn't know who her real biological father was. Now, up until 1997, Paula Yates actually believed that her father was Jess Yates, a man who hosts a religious program on ITV called Stars on Sunday. However, in 1997, Paula Yates was devastated to find out that her father was actually game show host Huey Green. Now, as Paula Yates was being raised by her mother, Elaine Smith, her whole feminist indoctrinated mindset created a lot of dysfunction in Paula Yates' life, and Paula Yates, even though she grew up with a religious father, wound up becoming lonely and isolated and did not really form a connection with her mother. And this lack of a connection with her mother prevented her from developing female life skills and female survival skills, and she really did not have any sort of connection with her mother. And again, it's those mommy issues that led to her learning how to become the predator later on in her life, and that was exacerbated when her parents' marriage basically broke up, and Paula Yates was living with her mother, who basically emotionally abandoned her. And while she was close to her father, she never really got to spend time with him after 1975, when her mother and her father divorced. And when they wound up divorcing, that's basically, I believe, further drove Paula Yates down the road to becoming a woman in crisis. Now, Paula Yates went out here and posed for Penthouse magazine, and that posing for Penthouse magazine basically showed that she was definitely on the road to becoming a woman in crisis, because when a woman poses in Penthouse, this is pornography, and again, it's all about them thinking that they're empowering themselves, but they're overcompensating for the lack of somebody being there to meet their emotional needs, and they believe that this sort of thing, posing nude, will empower them when actually they're being exploited. And this further put Paula Yates down the road to being on the road of predators. And after she posed for Penthouse magazine, she went out and started writing a column as a music journalist in the Record Mirror called Natural Blonde. And she later on then went on to further prominence in the 80s and as a co-presenter on the program on Channel 4 called The Tube, and then later on went on to do other different things on BBC, and eventually made her own version of Nancy Sinatra's These Boots Are Made for Walking, before eventually becoming a presenter on The Tube. And as Paula Yates was out here doing interviews on the bed on another show called The Big Breakfast, she ran into the man who is another textbook beta male, Bob Geldof, who eventually became her husband. Now, after Paula Yates met Bob Geldof, they eventually wound up having a relationship, and as they had that relationship, they had three daughters. They had Fifi, Peaches, and Pixie, and they had three of these daughters. And as Paula Yates was married to Bob Geldof, she started thinking about participating in hypergamy. Now, as she was out here with Bob Geldof, she had a year-long affair with American singer Terence Trent D'Arby, and then had a 6-year-long affair with Rupert Everett. So she wasn't really committed to Bob Geldof, although Bob Geldof was a big-time simp, and he was a producer who was out here looking to elevate Paula Yates. Paula Yates basically was looking to use Bob Geldof as a springboard to advance herself at his expense, and she was looking to go out here and monkey branch to another entertainer in the hopes of making it big and getting a big payday for herself. And this was the plan of Paula Yates. She wanted to go out here and get paid at the expense of a big star. Unfortunately, she was just a side chick for Terence Trent D'Arby and Rupert Everett, and she didn't really wind up having a big break as related to a successful star on the level of a Bob Geldof until she met with INXS lead singer Michael Hutchence. And when she met with INXS lead singer Michael Hutchence, she basically said she's going to have that boy because it was her ultimate plan to go out here and monkey branch to Michael Hutchence, and she said as much to the road manager of INXS, and eventually started working on her plan to go out here and seduce Michael Hutchence, because Michael Hutchence in 1985 was on his way to becoming a big star, and by 1987 he had his biggest album, Kick, with multiple classic songs, and he was on his way to becoming a superstar musician. And Paula Yates wanted to go out here and monkey branch over to Michael Hutchence, and basically this woman basically was a female predator looking to prey on Michael Hutchence, who was just caught up in his stardom and his fame, and was so caught up in his stardom and fame and caught up in the attention he was receiving that he wasn't thinking critically about the woman he is getting involved with. And because he wasn't really thinking about the woman he had gotten involved with, he got involved with this female predator, Paula Yates, and this woman in crisis basically put Michael Hutchence on the road to becoming a man in crisis. And as Paula Yates got involved with Michael Hutchence, his life basically started to go into a major state of decline. Now, Michael Hutchence already had issues as related to his mental health after having a fight with a cab driver in another foreign city with his then model girlfriend, and he was becoming erratic. But things only got worse when he got involved with Paula Yates, who basically was going out here and looking to use the daughter that she had with him, Tiger Lily, as a pawn. Now, in between Bob Geldof and Paula Yates pulling at Michael Hutchence, what happened was that Michael Hutchence basically wound up in a custody battle in the aftermath of his last record called Elegantly Wasted, failing to gain success. And this custody battle compounded with the failure of Elegantly Wasted, and the brain damage that Michael Hutchence received led to Michael Hutchence becoming in a place of extreme distress, because Michael Hutchence really wanted to have a relationship with his daughter, but due to Bob Geldof and Paula Yates basically just tying him up in this custody battle, because that simp Bob Geldof, basically, he was mad that Paula Yates had gone out here and had an affair on him, and gone out here and got involved with Michael Hutchence, who was of a higher social status and more popular and richer than him. what happened was that Bob Geldof, I believe, wanted to go out here and he wanted to get even with Michael Hutchence, not seeing how Paula Yates was basically was a puppet master manipulating both men, and this is the type of predatory behavior that feminist indoctrinated women participate in when they are hypergamous. And it was the hypergamy of Paula Yates that basically derailed the life of Michael Hutchence. And after she derailed the life of Michael Hutchence was at a place of such despondency because he felt he could not be able to have that relationship with his daughter Tiger Lily because Bob Geldof threatened Michael Hutchence and told him that he was above the law. And this is the thing that allegedly led to Michael Hutchence becoming so distraught that he wound up committing suicide and hanging himself inside of his hotel room. And this was the thing that basically led to Michael Hutchence basically becoming extremely distraught and again cost him his life. But that was nothing to Paula Yates, who again was a woman in crisis due to the dysfunctional way she was raised. And what was even more of a blow after this was that Paula Yates found out that her father wasn't her father. And again, she found out that her father was actually Huey Green. And this basically, I believe, led to Paula Yates further falling into despondency. And after she fell into further despondency, what happened was Bob Geldof, the ultimate simp, then went out here and got custody of all of Paula Yates' children. And after he got custody of all of her children, that's when things went and Paula Yates went into a major decline. Now, Paula Yates' entire life basically ended on September 17th, 2000, and that's where she was at her home in Notting Hill, and she had a heroin overdose. Now, this heroin wasn't supposed to be enough of a dose to kill anyone. However, because of the way Paula Yates basically tried to take this drug, what happened was that she wound up dying of an overdose of this drug, and she died of an overdose of this drug because her body had no tolerance, and that's what led to almost all of these children, including Tiger Lily, winding up in the custody of Bob Geldof, king of the simps. And again, all of this sadly happened because of this woman in crisis. Now, this woman in crisis, Paula Yates, she was raised to become a dysfunctional woman. She became a female predator looking to prey on someone, and she preyed on Michael Hutchence and sadly took his life. And as I see it, because of the suicide and all of the pressures as related to the custody battle, so she wound up losing her life. And again, she was the second of 3 generations of women in crisis. I mean, her mother was a woman in crisis, and with her being her first teacher, she taught her daughter to become a woman in crisis. And sadly, there was a third person who became a woman in crisis, and that was Paula Yates' daughter, Peaches, who also died of a heroin overdose. And she died just like her mom of a heroin overdose, and she died missing her mother, and again wound up becoming another woman in crisis. So there were 3 generations of women in crisis, and when I look at the case of Paula Yates, it shows me what happens when you have a woman who is feminist indoctrinated. She teaches her daughter the culture of feminism, and that culture of feminism leads to her becoming a woman in crisis, just like her mother. And what's sad here is we've got 3 generations of women in crisis. We have Paula Yates' mother, who was Elaine Smith, who was a woman in crisis who raised her daughter to become dysfunctional. And then Paula Yates herself became dysfunctional, and her daughter Peaches became dysfunctional. So it's like watching 3 generations of women become women in crisis, and instead of women passing down values, they pass down dysfunction. And that is the saddest case about this case of Paula Yates. It was a case of 3 generations of women in crisis, one passing down the culture of another, proving the old African proverb which said a race can rise no higher than the moral position of its woman, and as the woman goes, so goes the race. And I'll paraphrase and say a generation of women can rise no higher than the moral position of its women, and as the mother goes, so goes the family. And that's why you have to be very careful about the women you get involved with, because women like a Paula Yates can basically destroy a man, destroy his family, destroy everything about his life. And again, this woman was a woman in crisis, and this woman in crisis basically turned a man, Michael Hutchence, from a successful musician to a man in crisis, and this woman in crisis then turned her children into women in crisis, and again, all a sad situation as related to the life of Paula Yates. Now, if you want to learn how to avoid being dysfunctional and falling into this dysfunctional paradigm, you can pick up my book, The Woman Crisis, on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. You can also find The Woman Crisis at other online booksellers like Smashwords, the iBookstore, and Google Play. And if you want to see me make more videos about historical women in crisis, you can send a donation to the Patreon, the PayPal, or the Cash App by clicking the links in the description box. And if I learn something about that woman that is viable for a video, I will make that video for you. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe. Coming to paperback and e-readers, The Retreat by Lawrence Cherry. If you want to advance in your faith in God, sometimes you have to retreat. Pre-order your copy of The Retreat by Lawrence Cherry at Amazon.com, Smashwords, the iBookstore, Google Play, and Barnes & Noble today.